Welcome to another explosive edition of Balls of Fire, where passion meets analysis and the biggest stories in sport take center stage. I'm your host, Abel Sunday. On today's show, we begin in Otukpo, where the Amedu Foundation Inter-School Sport Festival is making waves by discovering young talent and promoting grassroots sport development. We will be joined by one of the key organizers, Josiah Delight Amedu, who will give us an inside look at the vision behind the festival, its impact on young talent, and what the future holds for this growing initiative. Now we'll switch our attention to the 2026 Women's African Cup of Nations, where the drama continues to unfold. The 2022 champions South Africa were held to a thrilling 2-2 draw by Ivory Coast. Will Burkina Faso edge Tanzania 2-1 in another entertaining contest? What does this result mean for the race to the knockout stage? And which teams have made the strongest statement so far? To help us make sense out of this is our ever insightful guest from the ancient city of Benin, the abracadabra of sport, Attribution. This is Balls of Fire. Let's light it up. Balls of Fire, reaching you live from the nation's capital, and this is the weekend edition of our sports show here on Politics and Business Television, Abuja. And of course, Josiah Delight Amedu is live joining us from Otukpo. Josiah, good afternoon. How is Otukpo this afternoon? Please, can you unmute yourself, sir? Please unmute yourself, please. Okay. We still can you hear me? But was okay. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Tell him to unmute his mic. His mic is muted.
Josiah, please, can you unmute your mic? Unmute your mic. Your mic is muted. Yes, unmute it from your phone. Unmute your mic from your phone. Please, if anybody there can help you to do that, please, sir. We still can't hear you. But as we was trying to struggle with Josiah, we still have the abracadabra of sport, Attribution, joining us from the ancient city of Benin. We call him that because he brings magic to sport analysis. And anytime we have Eru in the studio, of course, you know that there are plenty of bashing. Eru, good afternoon, and how is Edo this afternoon?
Good afternoon, Mr. Abel. Edo is shining this afternoon.
Edo is actually, it's actually needed. It's needed today. Okay, Mr. Josiah, can you hear me now?
He's still showing that his mic is muted, so I don't know.
Please, if you can hear me, sir, tell somebody there to help you unmute your mic. But Eru, before we get back to Josiah, let's well, what would I say? Bafana of South Africa drew yesterday, and looking at the defensive shambolic defense, I would say yesterday, what was I don't really know what to say, but what on earth happened to the Banyana backline in their first half to let 18-year-old Grace Seri, I think it's Grace Seri that went through that defense to score. What really happened to the backline of Banyana of South Africa?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I would say I don't like the fact that you said to allow 18-year-old. It sounded like You see, well, I don't think football works exactly like that. I think the South Africans, the Banyana ladies, they got distracted, in my own opinion. Um, I think that's one of the things that affected them. I think they went into the game not completely prepared, both psychologically, mentally, and even physically. And so it completely showed in that game yesterday. And like I told you before the last time I was here, I think 2 days ago. I said one of the problems I think I'm having with many of these teams is that they are underrating their opponents. You know, when it comes to the WAFCON, we already have some certain big names. We already have some certain things that we look out for as the big names. And then I think some of them are beginning to forget that business is no longer as usual. It's no longer business as usual. There are certainly new cherries in town, and so it's beginning to affect the team. So I think that's one thing that affected them. But what we saw yesterday is something that can happen to any team. Actually, it's something that can befall any team. Any team can have defensive lapses, can have defensive destructions in their game. So yeah, it just starts to see that happen with the South African women, being that they are also a very decent side, and they played also against a very good opponent. So we can't take that away from them completely.
Yeah, we can't really take. Yeah, we can't really take that away. But kudos to, of course, Ivory Coast. But did Desiree Ellis get her starting lineup completely wrong, or does the credit belong to? That's the question I wanted to belong to her second half tactical substitution. Because if you see what I think the Ivorian ran into them. Let me just use that word. Ran into them anyhow, and I think second half they were able to come back and see how they could salvage at least a point for Banyana. At least that gives them some kind of hope that if they can win their last game, somehow they might be able to qualify for the knockout stage. But the way it is it that the tactical approach of Ellis was the one that saved them yesterday?
Yes, I will give credit to Ellis for the tactical I'll call it a tactical comeback. In my books, I think that's one of the things that help them. Usually, one of the things that makes the sport interesting, or that gives it its credibility and its exciting part, nature, is your ability to read games and to know what to do. The first half, as we have agreed, was disastrous. The first half was for them was not something they I don't think it's something they will look back at and be proud of. But you saw that going into the second half, they didn't completely lose their focus on the game. They didn't completely chicken out. They didn't completely give up hopes. And then there were a few tweaks into the tactics that they played, a few substitutions here and there, and you saw the result of that. Now, like I will always say, that events like that goes two ways. It either works for you or it works against you. If it were to go south yesterday, we will not sit here now and be discussing a certain tactical masterclass or a certain tactical overturn. We would rather be saying, "Oh, Ellis she got it wrong. She did this, she did that." But because it worked out well, and they were able to salvage a draw, especially after a very disgraceful first half performance from a former champion. Yes, I will give kudos to Ellis. I think her tactics eventually affected the game. It changed the dynamics of that encounter. And you can see in the second half that they became better. It was on the second half they began to play like the Banyana ladies that we know, the Banyana that we actually recognize to a certain extent. They became better, they grew into the game, they became bolder, they approached the game with better precision and better insight. They began to play like they were playing a match. They played the first half like it was a charity or a novelty match, in my own opinion. But then in the second half, I think that's where psychological expertise also comes into play. You know, when we are discussing about tactics and how tactics change, we also need to not always take away the fact that there's a psychological aspect of it. I would always refer anybody, whenever I mention this, I would always refer to I think 3-4 seasons ago, if my memory serves me right, Manchester City versus Aston Villa, the last game of the season. If Manchester City won the game, they clinched the title. If they lost the game, they eventually would have lost the title to, I think, Liverpool. And in the first half, they were 2-0 down against Aston Villa. I think goals from Ross Barkley. I forgot who got the other goal. They were 2 goals down. Guess what? In the halftime, and during halftime, Pep Guardiola, the coach of Manchester City, now ex-coach, did not do any single tactical change. He did not go there to say, oh, in the second half, we are switching from a 4-3-3 formation to a 4-4-2, or we are beginning to play a 4-5-1. He didn't do any of that. He didn't substitute anybody out. When he came in back in the game in the second half, he didn't take out anybody. But what did he do? At halftime, when they got to the dressing room, he sat all the players down and he told them up and play. He said, have you forgotten who you are? I'm telling you this because I was privileged to see the video. He asked them, he said, do you know who you are? They said, yes, we are champions. He asked them again, are you sure you know you are champions? He said, do you think you are playing like champions out there? They said, no. And he said something that struck me. He said, this game, this title is in your hands. Whether we win it or we lose it, it's completely in your hands. I'm not going to say further. And guess what? When they got back into the pitch, they played like champions. Ike Gundogan got 2 goals, and they eventually won the game. The British squad, they won the game 3-2, and they won the league title. That was a pure psychological, tactical change in the players. He just needed to remind the players of who they were at that time and what they were up against and what was at stake. And they delivered. So sometimes these things have a way of affecting players and the way they play positively. I strongly believe that after the first half of that game, especially for the defensive line, they are humans. I've played terrible games before. You feel down. Your emotions will be downcast. You feel betrayed. You feel like you've let your team down. You feel like you've not given your best. You've not done enough. And then somebody somewhere just gives you that word of encouragement, that push that makes you remember that, okay, even if this is not going the way you planned or the way you would have wanted, it doesn't change the fact that you are a monster. It doesn't change the fact that you are who you say you are. And that is just all you may actually need to give you that push. And then, yeah. So I think it was a mix of the fact that the players could dust themselves that, yes, this was a disgraceful first half performance, but it's not over. And then kudos to Ellis for such a wonderful tweak in the game.
Yeah, it's a wonderful tweak in the game. But looking at Ivory Coast, they ran out of gas second half. And don't you think that's a bad sign going into the quarterfinals? And of course, they're going to meet elite team, bigger teams. Them having a lead and throw it away. You get such a thing. Do you think that would be a kind of worry? I'm talking about the coach. Don't you think that would be a worry for the coach? Because if his players cannot hold their own against South Africa, and if they are going into the quarterfinals, they're going to meet a tougher opponent who have the likes of potentially my darling Super Falcons, and we have the likes of Morocco there. Morocco is also still there. So you could see they could meet any of these guys. I'm not saying they're going to meet Super Falcons or the Moroccan ladies, Atlas Lioness. I'm not saying they're going to meet any of them, but I'm saying if they are going to meet such stronger teams, of course, definitely they're going to meet stronger teams like that. How are they going to hold their own when they get into that quarterfinals?
Okay, can you hear me? Sorry,
yes, I can hear you now.
Thank you very much for that wonderful question. You see, there's one thing that happens in the game of soccer. Yeah, when after every game, as a good coach, as a good manager, as a good tactician, you must go back to the drawing board. Whether you win the game 10-0. I've watched games where managers are leading by a very good and convincing margin, and they are not impressed. I'm not talking about the likes of Pep Guardiola, the likes of Thomas Tuchel. Severally, when you hear their post-match conference or interviews, they'll tell you they are not impressed. Despite the score. So you that is a fan that is watching, you begin to wonder. Let me speak again. Why we go win match 4-0, coach not be impressed. When I was still in university, when I was playing for my school team, then there was a particular match that we won 3-0. My coach, he ran out on all of us. Like, there was not a single encomium of praise to any of us. That was a match that we won fair and square. We dominated. We won with a clean sheet. But why did he say that? He said, in his words, we did not exploit the weakness of our opponents the way he would have wanted. that left to him, this should have been a 7-0 game. That's a game we won 3-0. Germany won the World Cup in 2014, 1-0. I'm going too fast. Spain won the World Cup recently, just 1-0. And somebody is not happy that we won a match 3-0 that took us to for that level. What am I trying to say? You must go back to the drawing board. You must be able to analyze that, okay, this is where I got it wrong. This is where I got it right. How do I improve? Because I always tell you, one thing that your opponent will always is that your opponent will always go to watch you. They will always have clips to watch. Your opponent will always want to know who the weak link is. That's when mind game comes into the game of football. Yeah, we have seen cases where a coach will tell you that, oh, so player will not be able to play. He's out injured, he's sick. And then on the day of the match, you are seeing the player, if the player is starting. It's a mind game because the coach knows that the opponent's team may probably have studied them and know that, okay, this player is who I plan to use as damages. So it comes to the press to tell you that this player will not be available to make you relax. So I think the Ivorian team, the coach, the coach has a lot of work to do. They have to go back to the drawing board to see, because you can, like you said, yes, the first half was theirs. It was Christmas Day for them in the first half. But that notwithstanding, how do you come into the second half of the encounter and you are looking like you're completely gassed? You are looking like your players. It was looking like during the after break they didn't rest. Whether they went to pound yam in the dressing room, I don't know, because they came back completely looking fatigued and tired. And guess what? This is just the second game of the tournament. So if you have anything to win, if you have anything to lose, if you have anything at stake, you have to check that. I think the players need to work on their endurance level, especially during trainings. So because you will play, like you have rightly pointed out, they have more elites and so far opening. Take away the fact that Super Falcons have not started the tournament very well. They still remain one of the favorites. We're talking about 3 times champion. A team that nobody wants to play against. A team. So imagine you meet a team like the Super Falcons, a deadly and brutal team who has no mercy, who gives no mercy, and then you are struggling to hold a South African team to ransom. It's gonna be a big problem for them. So I think the coach needs to go back and look into that. Also, in answering the question, another thing I think the coach needs to do in respect to that, the coach probably needs to look at the playing pattern. You see, there are some kind of patterns you play that gasses player out. Yes, there are patterns. I'm speaking because I've been privileged to play and manage a team. There are some patterns you play that gasses certain players out. Because of the rigorous nature of the pattern of play, because of the rigorous nature of the tactics you are deploying, it makes your players tend to burn out more and more quickly. For example, when you are playing a pattern of game and you are man-marking a player, you are assigning a player to man-mark, be very well assured that such a player will tend to gas. Is someone that will not stay one play. Imagine assigning the defender to match a female player. It will cause a burnout. It will cause a very serious burnout on the player. So I think the coach needs to also into the way they play. The way they play. It could also be a factor as to why they got easily put out and trying to push out. Because you are the person that are holding the ball. You are the one that is in control of the game. You should not burn out so quickly. But then again, I don't want to say there's something I'm fighting within myself not to say. But I think I just have to say it. And please, this is not me being gender biased or anything. What's interesting in my mouth to say is I also consider the fact that they are ladies, but then they are professionals, they are trained. This is what they do for club and country. So I don't think their gender will count as in, because even men can play matches and get burnt out and get easily fatigued.
Yeah, okay, but about sport. Looking at the South African team, your own opinion, will you say this is a good outing for them? And considering the fact that they are going into this game, I beg your pardon, this WAFCON is also a qualification game for the World Cup next year. If they fail to go out of this group stage, it means that their hope to even qualify for the World Cup is already gone. You get? So them not even going out of this group game, which is their next game, they need to take it very seriously and hope that, okay, maybe God will just smile or the heaven will smile on them. But if anything falls short of winning that next game, it means that they are already out of it. And looking at the thing like Banyana or South Africa did not go to the World Cup, then it's a whole problem. I want to know if you think that will be a big blow for the Banyana of South Africa.
First of all, before I give my talk, I want to establish here and say it clearly in the open. I'm not apologetic. I don't want them to go. I have beef with South Africa. You already know that. Male, female team. If they ever have a transgender team, I have beef with them. Yes, let that be established. That's why I remain pained that I was not able to show up on the show the day we were to bash them.
Yeah.
I had a lot of agenda materials that I prepared for them. But that's notwithstanding. I think, in my opinion, you asked me two questions. To answer your first question, I don't think the Banyana ladies should look at what they have done so far and be proud. I'm sorry. There's always the saying that men, life is in phases and men are in sizes. Considering the level they are, we're talking about a former champion. It's just like Super Falcons. They'll say, oh, because we lost to Malawi, it's not something to look at and be proud. Because you know who you are, you know where you are coming from. There are teams that go into certain tournaments and they probably steal a draw or get a win, and they will be well celebrated. For example, look at Cape Verde in the just concluded World Cup. They did not win any of their group stage matches. They got draws all through. But guess what? They were largely celebrated. Why? They drew against Spain. Do you understand? They drew against I've forgotten the other thing that they drew against. They were largely celebrated. Ordinarily, if you tell to be some teams, okay, let me use the same game against Spain. While Cape Verde was getting applause on the internet for getting a draw against Spain, Spain was being backlashed and battered for getting a draw against Cape Verde. You can see the irony of this thing. Now, it only tells you one thing, that because there's a certain pedestal that Spain is on right now, we don't expect less from them. And same goes for the Banyana ladies of South Africa. The truth remains that, yes, when it comes to women football in Africa, the Super Falcons of Nigeria remains number one, undisputed. 10 times. If whoever does not agree should first of all win 10 WAFCON, then they can come for a discussion. Remains number one. The truth is, you cannot also before you call up to 5, you must mention the Banyana ladies of South Africa. These are from the champions that we're talking about. And then, in 2 games they've played already, they've been able to secure just 1 point. They lost the first game to Tanzania, if I'm not mistaken. And then, they were only able to manage the draw against Ivory Coast. That is not something to be proud of, especially for a tournament where 2 things are at stake. The title is at stake, World Cup qualification is at stake. It's not something to be proud of, sincerely, in my book. And I think that going into the next game that they have, they need to make it a do or die affair. They need to declare war on the pitch. Not the war with weapons, war with their feet. They need to declare war on the pitch. They need to give in their all because of a truth, like you have said, which I strongly agree to. If they fail to secure qualification for the World Cup, or if they fail to advance in the tournament, in this WAFCON tournament, then it's in my book, it's a disgraceful performance, it's a disgraceful outing, and woe betides them, in my own opinion.
All right, I think you said it all, and I want to agree with you strongly because they need to, because this is people that these are the team that qualify, or rather that are WAFCON champion 2022. Yeah, just 4 years back, and if they are unable to go for the World Cup, then I think it's going to be a very, very big disappointment. But it's time for us to go on a short break. When we come back, definitely we'll go to Tanzania and the Burkina Faso game that raised a whole lot of eyebrow. But Eri is here, of course, definitely. He's going to do magic to his sport analysis. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Balls of Fire reaching live from business and politics and business television here in Abuja. And of course, the Ibakadabra of sport is still very much with us, all the way from the ancient city of Benin. We call him that, like I said earlier, because he brings magic to sport analysis. And he said that Burkina Faso, Banyana of Africa was lucky that he was not on the show on Tuesday. But of course, we're going to see what happened in their last game, and I'm very sure the Brakadabra of Sport will be here to talk about the Banyana of South Africa. But let's jump into the next game, which is Tanzania versus Burkina Faso. We saw that game ended 1-0. Well, from your own opinion, do you think Tanzania would have done better after what we saw with others against South Africa? They took South Africa by surprise. We're thinking that at least getting a draw in that game would have do a whole lot of good for them.
Sorry, my network was shaking. Can you say that again? I didn't hear you.
Okay, I said the Burkina Faso Tanzanian game yesterday ended 1-0 in favor of Burkina Faso. We're thinking that Tanzania would have done so well because of their opener against Banyana of South Africa, which they did that 2-1. They got the whole 3 points from the Banyana of South Africa. We're thinking that they're going to take that momentum into this next game, but unfortunately they lost to Burkina Faso. But don't you think they would have done better? Getting a draw in that game could have strengthened their qualification chances to the knockout stage.
Yes. I was personally surprised at the outing of Tanzania yesterday because I, for one, expected that they would jump on the momentum gathered from the victory against South Africa, the Banyana ladies. I think I mentioned that on the show also. But I was particularly surprised at the way they played. I expected that they did do better. And a victory would have just given them the needed qualification, secured their spot in the next round or the next stage. But then now, at the way it stands, they have to fight in the last game against Ivory Coast. So it's a sad one for me, and I think because I just loved the fact that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And so since they helped me to defeat South Africa, I made them my friends. Exactly. So, but it was sad to see that my friends lost yesterday to Burkina Faso. I want to think also that the red cards, they had the red card.
True. It also affected the result. Yeah, but going forward, looking at the Tanzanians, don't you think that the hype from the first game or the victory was just overwhelming and they could not maybe try to sustain it, or should they say winning South Africa and they are debutant to this championship and winning to South Africa, which is one of the tournament champions already in 2022, then I think that can get into them, and the pressure is now much. We've won South Africa, we have to do well. Do you get what kind of thing? Do you think that might be the case in this Burkina Faso's game?
I don't think that's completely the case. While I think that, of course, momentum would have been gathered from the victory against South Africa, defeating former champions, I don't think it's completely overwhelmed them and caused them to lose focus in the game. Because like I said, rather that momentum would have been channeled into securing victory against Burkina Faso, and the rest assured that no matter the results that comes out of the last group game against Ivory Coast, they would have secured qualification already.
Yeah.
So I think what really played out for me was the fact that they were already losing before the red card. In fact, they got an equalizer a few minutes after the red card. They got the red card in the 55th minute, and I think they equalized in the 62nd or 63rd minute, if I'm not mistaken. So I think what really affected them for me was the fact that red cards are something that you don't necessarily plan for 100. You don't go into a game as a coach and pray that you get a red card. Maybe the only coach that would have that would have completely prepared for red card was Enzo Maresca of Chelsea last season, beginning of last season, because when Chelsea was getting red card every single game, it became a tradition. If we don't get a red card, the match will not end. He moved from players getting the red card to coaches getting the red card. So I think that aside, I think that red card largely also affected the game. And when they got the equalizer, if you watched the game, they could no longer come out. All they were now trying to do was protect that one goal that they equalized. They at some point wanted the game to end that way because numerically they were already at a disadvantage. Burkina Faso were already more than them, 10 against 11. But sadly, they could not really hold the 1-1 draw. Burkina Faso got another goal, and that ended the counter.
But looking at Burkina Faso throwing the group completely wide open, which manager is losing the most sleep ahead of these final matches? Do you think do you think is for me? I think it's the South African manager that might be losing sleep ahead of this, because she have a chance to also qualify. If she not qualify, definitely it will be a whole big blow. If Tanzania did not go through, this is their debut season. This is the first time they are coming in to play, so nobody will follow them. After all, they've done so well. They've beaten South Africa, one of the champions of this very much championship. So nobody will actually follow them or one thing. You get? Burkina Faso, same thing. They might not really look at them like that because definitely they've not done so much in terms of WAFCON. But South Africa, I think, my own opinion, but I want to get yours. I think Alice will lose sleep before the last game. Let me get your opinion.
I don't think Alice has even been sleeping from the first day of the tournament. Because after you do your nonsense on the pitch, Nigerians are dragging you on. We are watching South Africa with every fiber of our being. That's the good thing about us. You cannot drag us.
Yeah.
So we will first drag ourselves.
Yes.
So we have already dragged ourselves.
So there's nothing for you to talk about. Yeah.
So there will be nothing there for you to banter us. We will banter ourselves and then we'll face you and banter you. But if you look at the group, Ivory Coast is presently on 4 points. Burkina Faso is on 3 points.
Yeah.
Tanzania is on 2 points. South Africa is on 1 point.
Yes.
Now, that's not the exciting thing for me, Mr. Ebe. Let me tell you the exciting thing. Ivory Coast is on a goal difference of 3. Burkina Faso is on -2. Tanzania is on 0. And South Africa is on -1. What this means mathematically, Super Eagles have turned all of us in Nigeria to mathematicians.
Yeah.
Ivory Coast obviously has the strongest chance to qualify. Yeah. And they will be facing Tanzania, who is on 3 points.
Yes.
So if that game ends in a draw,
they go through.
Ivory Coast will go through. Tanzania will depend on the results from Burkina Faso and South Africa because they are tied on 3 points with Burkina Faso. But they have an edge. Burkina Faso is on -2 goals. They are on 0. So that gives them an edge. Also, if you look at it from the other angle, the only thing South Africa needs to do is to win and win with a convincing at least 2 or 3-0 to stand any chance. They need to defeat Burkina Faso with at least 2 to 3 goals to stand any chance. And guess what? They're playing against Burkina Faso that has a strong chance of qualification, sitting pretty second on the group with 3 points. Who at some point probably just needs
a draw
or even a win. Yeah,
they even need a draw because a win actually. Yeah, because if Tanzania had to go ahead and beat Ivory Coast, then I think that their draw might not be enough because Ivory Coast is already +3. So
already had a better goal margin than
them. Yeah.
So going by this little analysis, South Africa, all the teams actually are on their toes. It's not certain for anybody, but Tanzania is presently South Africa is really doing fasting and prayer added to extra preparations to get through from that group. But the group is still wide open.
It's wide open, but what do you think have an edge? What do you think? Which two do you predict that might scale through? Let me put you on the spot.
In my books, I think Burkina Faso is going to defeat South Africa. So I think the
Hope you are not being sentimental there.
I think because I'm not, it's not a matter of being sentimental. Like I said, South Africa has not been convincing in this tournament. They lost their first game to tournament debutants. They drew the second game. They've not been what's it called? They've not been very impressive. And you are playing against a team that see them. You are playing against a team that is as Moses and the Promised Land. See the Promised Land. So it's gonna be a disgrace to Burkina Faso if they eventually lose to the South African team when they have a stronger chance at qualification. So in my book, I think Ivory Coast and Burkina Faso are going to go through.
All right, that's what you said. Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso might go through to the quarterfinal stage. But let's come back home. We'll have our darling Super Eagles that's going to play today. We're playing I beg your pardon. We're playing Zambia today, certain Zambia. But Zambia, if you recall, if you see, we've met with Zambia, I think 4 times. The first one was in 2014. We won Zambia 6-0. In 2018, we beat Zambia 4-0. In 2022, we met Zambia in 3rd place, if you remember. 3rd place game in Morocco. And we lost to Zambia 1-0. Courtesy, not that they even score. You know, they did not even score. They've never scored us. It was even a home goal by our goalkeeper, Chiamaka Inadozie. If you remember that game very well, we lost to them in 2022. 2025, we beat them 5-0. That was, I think we came back, we were so angry and we dismantled them. And we're meeting Zambia today. What do you think is going to happen between the Super Falcons of Nigeria to the Zambian team? What do you think is going to happen today?
After the game against Malawi, like I said, it's difficult to banter Nigeria because we banter ourselves. Our Super Falcons were getting dragged on the internet. And one of the things they were being dragged for, somebody said they were spending too much time on social media. Our darling goalkeeper, Chiamaka Inadozie, came out to respond. And she said when they were winning, were they not active on social media? But that's not the part I'm going to. She ended her comment with a word that I hold true dear to my heart. That is the exact word that Lionel Andres Kututini Messi told the Argentines in the 2022 World Cup after their first match loss to Saudi Arabia when they lost 2-0. He said, and I quote, "We will not let you down." And then Chiamaka Inadozie, being who she is, repeated that same word in her comments and said, "We will not let Nigerians down." I hope if that was coming from a Super Eagles player, I would have asked him to go and sit down. Coming from the goalkeeper of the Super Falcons, I hold it dear to my heart. And you know, sometimes history has a way of repeating itself. Sometimes. Given what has happened in the last game against Malawi, Zambia should be prepared because at some point in the game, they will begin to ask whether it's football we came for, we came to fight war. Because we are going to that pitch with blood and sweat to play. There's everything to play for. More dangerously because Zambia is presently topping our group with 3 points.
True.
So we have everything to fight for on that pitch. We are giving it our all on that pitch today. And by the special grace of God, I know God is not involved in the game of football. We are coming out victorious.
And this is the first time I see you bringing God into the analysis. You know, you said, water no pass, Gary. I used to think that I am the only. So you be hiding these things. So we are in this together. You be having these things, right? Okay, fine.
I like the Super Falcons more than I like the Super Eagles.
Okay.
Yes, I don't hide it. Anybody that knows me knows. But I like the Super Falcons more than I like the Super Eagles. They are more optimistic and promising to me.
But
maybe when you become the coach of the Super Eagles, I will fall in love with them again.
Don't worry, it's time shall tell. I'm working on my my coaching courses. Don't worry. When the time comes, you will know. Let's focus on the Super Falcons. Looking at the last game against Malawi, those 3 goals, if you look at where the goalkeeper, I don't know if you have that picture, they could have put it out there. The goalkeeper, where she was, the positioning, I think it was totally wrong. And that is where they were able to exploit us. The 3 goals comes from how she was even standing. You could see the last one that what is her name again? The Waiting Sisters. That she just, oh my God, it's so painful for a world class goalkeeper like Chiamaka to commit such a blunder. Why are you running out? You have a defender stopping that girl already. Why are you coming out? Do you get? So I don't know. Do you think she can do better? Because this is exactly the kind of behavior. Sorry to use our former goalkeeper Stanley Wambali. This is what Stanley Wambali will move to. Whether he want to start playing inside the pitch or she want to leave the goal post. I don't even understand what Stanley Wambali. He will leave the post and go to the middle. From that middle, you know what these people can do. So let me get let me get your thought on that, because I think she really need to know, look at that clip very well and see how she was standing. A whole lot. It cost a lot. It was one of the major factors that we considered 3. I think we did not consider 3. We would have won that game 2-0. Let me get your thought. Thank you so much. See where keeper dey. Even me when I know they play ball, I don't go even stand there. Let me get your thought real quickly.
You know, the thing about us Nigerians, generally, not just footballing wise, we don't know how to manage. We don't know how to manage stardom and fame sometimes. I don't know whether it is a tradition amongst our players. They tend to be overwhelmed by encomiums and praises sometimes. What I can just ascertain from all of that happened with Chiamaka and Dozie and the game, I think she got a bit. I'm not here calling her out. I mean, she's my crush. That's my crush in the Super Falcons thing. I think she got overwhelmed and she got a bit carried away by the level of love, the level of fame, the level of recognition she has received over time. I mean, we're talking about the player who has won the best female goalkeeper in Africa. Do you understand? The player who is the goalkeeper of the last WAFCON team, a player who at some point was slowly getting into the female Ballon d'Or conversation. So I think all of these things are beginning to. She needs to check herself. In my opinion, I don't think she's still the Unadozie that we know, the good goalkeeper, the good shot stopper that we know. She just needs to. I think. Because as humans, overconfidence has a way of dealing with you sometimes.
Sure. Yeah.
I think it was a matter of overconfidence. It was exactly a replica of the situation, like you have rightly pointed out, that we saw with Stanley Wambali. You are on the his own even became worse to the point that if you talk to him, he will talk back. If you talk to him, he will talk back. You can't correct him. So I think after that game, I know for sure that the coach will sit them down. Unadozie will be spoken to, and she will actually see her own errors. You always go back to watch your games. That's why you have people on the pitch who take notes of these things, and then she'll be told that, okay, in this game, this, your placement was wrong, your positioning was wrong, and that cost us some of the goals that we considered. And just as she has said, we will not let Nigerians down. I believe also that she has learned from her mistake, and that going into the game today, she would improve on that, because we have a 100% record against Zambia. That record is 100% because not just we are defeating them, it always comes with a clean sheet. So anything that will spoil it, let that thing spoil this afternoon before that match.
They say anything
that will let the person get injured.
They say if bad thing go happen, may rain fall, abi? If bad thing go happen.
So I believe the Super Falcons generally would have gone back to actually check themselves, because despite the fact that they lost the game against Malawi, they were positive. They struck a comeback on 2 occasions, and it shows that okay, they've not completely lost the flair, they've not lost it, and I don't know why I have this very positive belief that they will do so well today. But if they eventually lose that game today, I'm not watching WAFCON again.
It's over now. It's over. But that will not happen. It's over. But I don't think
You will land in the hospital.
Because I can't go back to the hospital. That will not happen. That will never happen. It will be disaster. It will be devastating. If that happened tonight, it means that I might not come to work on Monday. That's what it means. But looking at the group now, we also have a certain Egypt. We have also okay, we've played Malawi and we're playing Egypt at the last game. I don't think Egypt should give us a problem as well. I don't think Egypt should even give but of that is what we said about Malawi. You get, and this is the first time they're coming in, but I think football have revolved we have evolved now, so everybody just need to play their A game. You just to come to your A game. Okay, that's the group. That's the group on the screen. We have Zambia topping. We have Malawi second 3. Okay, Ghana have +6. Malawi have +1. We have Nigeria -1. Then Egypt -6 down the bottom. So I think if we can just pick our remaining games, 2 games, I think we are good. We are good to go. But I know your prediction. Which of these teams? I don't know if it's early to say, but which of these teams do you think will cross through? Because I know that definitely the Super Falcons will go through the knockout stage.
Yeah, I know that the Super Falcons of Nigeria will actually go through this stage to the knockout round. Another team I'm looking out for that will eventually, in my books, go through, you'll be so shocked, is the Malawi team. If you can cause such a major upset to the Super Falcons, defending champions, the biggest team when it comes to women African football, I don't think, is it Egypt that was battered 6-0 by Zambia that they can't do something against? I think they can even match up with Zambia in my books. So if you can, I'm looking out for the Super Eagles and the Malawi team. They're already on 3 points. All they need to do is to win just one more game. Between games, their remaining 2 games against Zambia. If you just win one.
And they are true. They are true. Exactly. So I think the greatest hurdle was the Super Falcons team, and which already they've scaled through that already, and hopefully let's see what happens as the tournaments continue. Thank you so much, Eru. As the final whistle blows on today's edition of Balls of Fire, we thank our special guest Eru John, the Abracadabra of Sport from the ancient city of Benin, for his valuable insight, and our appreciation also goes to Josiah Delight Amedu for sharing the inspiring vision behind the Amedu Foundation Inter-School Sports Festival and his commitment to nourish the next generation of sporting talent. Thank you so much, Eru, for doing this with me this afternoon.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, from the grassroots to the biggest stage of African football, the passion for sport continues to unite and inspire us all. I'm Abel Sunday. Thank you for watching. Keep supporting sport, keep believing in talent, and remember, the fire never goes out on Balls of Fire. See you next time. Goodbye.